Right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming, and welcome to the Tuesday, February 2nd, 2010 meeting of the Glendale Redevelopment Agency. Mr. Kasakian, could you call the roll, please?
Agency members: Friedman.
Here.
Najarian.
Here.
Quintero.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Chairman Draymond.
Here. Can we hear your report, please?
The agenda for the February 2nd, 2010 regular meeting of the Glendale Redevelopment Agency was posted on Thursday, January 28, 2010 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you very much. Our first item?
First item is approval of minutes.
Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Did we have any abstentions? I think not. So the minutes will stand approved as submitted. Our next item, please.
Next item is oral communication. No cards were submitted for that.
All right, then we will close oral communications and move on to the first business item.
On the business agenda at 6A is a public hearing, Director of Community Redevelopment and Housing regarding Stage 1 preliminary design review for the Mita Plaza, proposed four-story mixed-use retail office project to be located at 435 Los Feliz Road. At 6A1 is motion approving Stage 1 preliminary design review subject to comments and conditions from the city's principal urban designer and the agency.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kasakian. Who is going to take this?
Mr. Chair, we'll go to Phil Lanza, famed Director of Community Redevelopment and Housing.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Redevelopment Agency, this is a Stage 1 design...
I'm sorry, let me just interrupt to open the hearing. Pardon.
Okay.
Right.
This is a Stage 1 design review for the Redevelopment Agency. Wanted to note that this project came to you before, maybe a little more than a year ago, as a mixed-use project. The developer has since altered the design enough that it should come back to you again as Stage 1, and that's what we were doing. If you recall, Stage 1 is site planning, massing, and scale. It is not the final approval. One thing I would like to note before we go into our presentation is we received a letter from Mr. Poindexter, who lives in the city of Los Angeles, I think just adjacent to this project. He wasn't sure if he'd be able to be here today, and so asked us to submit this letter. I will note in his comments that he, number one, suggests or asks the question, should you be hearing this without having done environmental review? In fact, what the agency's policy has been is to do this preliminary review so that the developer has some idea of site planning issues, mass scale, then they can go finish their description for environmental review. There are some other issues in here dealing with CEQA and environmental impacts that we will pass the letter along to the developer and make sure that those are being covered, as Mr. Poindexter suggests, in the environmental document that will come before you with final approval on this. So with that, I'd like to introduce C.F. Young from ARC Architects to walk you through the project, and staff here from many different departments is available if you have any questions, as well as the developer's representatives.
All right, just for the record, Mr. Poindexter is here and has turned in a card, so he will be speaking on this item later.
Good afternoon.
The music is coming from where exactly?
I'll hit really quickly.
That's a nice backdrop.
Oh, that's the presentation. All right.
Let's start over.
While they're setting that up, let me ask the speaker if you have an idea of how much time you need to make your presentation.
It's about 4 minutes.
Okay, let's try out 4 or 5 minutes, Mr. Kasaki, and see how that goes.
Want any music? Are you set up there, Mr. Clerk?
Seeing if it is. No? Take a while. Or it'll take just a few minutes. There it goes. Okay. Go ahead.
Once again, good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank the City Redevelopment Agency and also the developer giving the team the chance to work on this very exciting project. The project site is basically, it's in a southwest border of the city of Glendale, and you're going to experience a center when you are entering and also exiting the southwest border. The center basically is divided into two different parts.
He's controlling it there.
Basically, you have the parking garage and the mixed-use complex. And the parking garage is going to have 2 levels below grade and 7 levels above grade on the plaza level. Not the fact that on the Los Feliz Road is about 20 feet below grade. And the mixed-use complex is 5-story tall. We're going to have a basement Korean supermarket, and also ground floor and second floor will be for retail use, and the third and fourth, it's going to be for general office and the medical office use. And they do have a common 5-story atrium. The architectural concept actually it's inspired by constructivist Distiche and a famous artist, Pierre Mondrian, where he spent all his lifetime exploring the vertical-horizontal relationship for color juxtaposition within the asymmetrical grid. So what we have used the same architecture fabric and apply on this beautiful building glass facade. So what we have done is basically on the existing harsh and brutal concrete embankment, we basically have transformed that into a very beautiful, soft, fluid, whiplash, organic platform. And a hardscape landscape will be designed in wavy styles, mimics the ocean waves. Standing behind Los Feliz Roads, facing south, you have the glass facade. You're looking at the parking structure. This is a Fernando Court facing. The front facade is basically, you have this curvilinear wire mesh veil over the glass box, which kind of mimics the mountain line. So the whole thing is because of the landmark side, we're trying to frame this view. And the building presents itself almost like a kaleidoscope, where you view it day or night, it's a different impact and give you a really different aesthetic view. It's a very exciting, architectural fabric. And large expanse use of glazing in order to create transparency in a mixed-use building. So, a lot of daylight will be allowed into the mixed-use center. And the significant use of green building techniques has been applied. On the parking structure on top, we're going to install the solar panel, and also on the mixed-use complex, lighting controls and sensors will be using the high-efficient lighting control and sensors, and high-performance low-E glass will be applied. So overall, if you look at the projects, this is in a critical site. Again, I like to emphasize it's on the southwest border of this city. So we have created basically kind of a state-of-the-art architectural fabric. And certainly, hopefully, this will be the brand new gateway center to the southwest border of the city of Glendale. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Are you looking at the Los Feliz facade, where the fabric I'm talking about, the embankment now is landscaping. You're looking at the bottom, which is like an ocean wave features, and then you have the curvilinear form. On the left, you have the parking structure. So basically, this vocabulary is coherent to each other. There are 2 different types of building. One is a mixed use, one is a parking structure. So, but we have tied the 2 building blocks together. In between, you have the palm court. You're looking at the water fountain, which ties the plaza elevation, the drastic change between plaza and the Los Feliz Road. That also guides you to the parking structure. And in the back, in the Fernando Court, you also have ingress, egress for the parking. That's a major difference between the previously designed and also approved program for stage 1. So we're coming back with a much more tailored to today's current economical market. Building program changed slightly, but it's a much more superior design. And this is a night view looking down from the corner of Los Feliz and Gardena Avenue. And then you have skylights over the 5-story atrium, interior atrium, the core. And you're looking at the existing concrete embankment where these soft fluid whiplash design, hardscape and landscape combined, leading into a semicircular showcase fountain wall that leads you to the parking. And you're looking at the Gardena, facing Gardena Avenue, continue the same vocabulary architecture fabric that ties into the whole building. And you're looking on the left, that's the elevator core for the parking for visitor coming down to this plaza facing the Los Feliz Road. And now you're looking at the Fernando Court, where you're on the left, you're looking at the mixed-use complex. On the right is the parking structure again. And this is facing the Pacific Railroad, which is I'm working with the staff. And this is a very critical elevation, and I think we have done a tremendous job playing with this metal grill. These are all metal grill over this concrete ribbon existing, not the brand new parking structure, the 7 level above grade. And this is the same vocabulary carrying through on the top of the offices. And then you see these color play again with the color juxtaposition of the panels that carry from the glass, using glass on the mixed use, and then carry to the painted metal grille on the parking structure. So this is basically a night view coming back from the Fernando Court. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We do have a speaker, but before we go to our speaker, let me first turn to my colleagues and see if there are any questions or comments from staff or anyone connected to the project. Comments, questions at this time? Okay. Thank you very much. Let's go to our speaker, Mr. Poindexter.
Good afternoon. My name is John Poindexter. I'm a resident of the Mount Washington area in the city of Los Angeles. I thank the agency for the opportunity to speak about this project, and as was indicated, I did submit a letter because I didn't know whether or not my time would permit me to be here today and address the agency in person. As it turns out, my time did permit me to be here, so I wanted to reiterate some of the points that I raised in my letter. In my letter, I made 4 points. I'd like to go over those. The first of those points was a question relative to whether the project was compliant with the requirement of CEQA. The point I made is that I had originally submitted some comments to the notice of preparation for the project EIR, and I was surprised at how soon after submitting those comments this item appeared on the agency's agenda for consideration of a Stage 1 design approval. CEQA requires that a final EIR be completed before the approval of a project. When I inquired of staff as to why this had appeared so quickly, they indicated that the agency had a policy of trying to provide direction to the applicant prior to significant further investment in a project in case there was any change of direction. And although I understand that, it appeared to me that that might be inconsistent with the requirements of CEQA that the EIR be completed prior to approval, and this was listed as a preliminary approval, and the state law doesn't seem to make any distinction between a preliminary approval and a final of approval project. So I call that out and suggested only that the agency should have additional discussion with the city attorney regarding that distinction and whether or not the policy as adopted by the agency would expose the project to the possibility of some successful challenge at a later date. The second comment I had was a comment that I made when responding to the notice of preparation for the project. I am an avid cyclist. I regularly commute down Los Feliz Road to access Glendale Boulevard and to access Griffith Park on a regular basis. When I originally saw the project design, I was concerned about the inclusion of a uncontrolled right-hand turn lane from Los Feliz Road directly into the project garage. That, in my opinion, constituted a potential hazard, and I suggested that that hazard should be investigated as a part of the assessment and the environmental impact report prior to a project approval. And the significance of that hazard should be dealt with either through the incorporation of mitigation measures or possibly by the elimination of that driveway and reliance on the driveways on other streets. I trust that it will be investigated as a part of the assessment in the EIR. But this project is coming to you for preliminary approval today, so I thought it was appropriate to bring that comment again as a part of this consideration. Again, as a cyclist, I am concerned that right-hand turning movement as this could impact both pedestrians, which would access the sidewalk, as well as cyclists, which would be moving in the same direction. It's been shown that right-hand turning movement, because cyclists will be in the blind spot of automobiles, presents a hazard unless the intersection or the driveway has some control mechanism, either through a stop sign, stop light, yield direction, or possibly there's no way to control it, and it is a hazard. The third comment that I had to do with the project height and massing. Again, I only had access to the project design yesterday, so I didn't conduct an extensive review, but I noticed that in the principal urban designers review of the project, they indicated that this project was essentially two unarticulated boxes of significant mass and height, and that the urban designer went further and essentially said, and these are my words, not his, that the project should be approved, which essentially says that it should be given a pass, even though they were just adorned boxes, because, and this is my word, sort of the funky character of the existing area. Well, I would note that one of the goals of the redevelopment agency is to...
Poindexter,
yes.
You've exceeded your time, so if you could conclude.
Will do. I know that one of the goals of the redevelopment agency is to improve the character of redevelopment areas. So my suggestion is that this is a project which hasn't been significantly studied in terms of strategies to reduce its mass and height, and that the urban designer and the applicant should return to the table and look at other strategies which might be successful in terms of reducing the mass and height of this building. And the last comment had to do with the extensive use of glass curtain walls.
Unfortunately, that is going to have to be your last comment for now. Because,
it is.
but we do have your letter, and it is. Each of us has a copy of it here. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mr.
I have a question, Mr. Poindexter. Mount Washington is quite a distance from the project. In addition to the cyclist connection, do you have another connection to this area? Do you work in the area, or what?
No, I don't. I'm just a resident, like I said, of Mount Washington, and it just came to my attention because I use Los Feliz as a cycling route on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Poindexter while he's here?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. If I have no other speaker cards, Mr. Kasakian, there are no other cards, let me close the public hearing. Let me turn to my colleagues and ask if there are any comments or input. Mr. Weaver.
Mine will be fairly short. Mr. Poindexter, we deliberated great length when we decided how we're going to handle Phase 1, Phase 2 in this particular redevelopment area. And this is truly schematic. It's to give staff and the applicant the input of what we think on the architecture, etc., even though we're not architects. And then let the company go back and further address traffic concerns, the ability to build on the site over easements, and a whole mess of things, including the lighting, the signage plans, whatever. Environmental document will, of course, have to be done according to CEQA before it's approved. So we wanted to do it this way, so it wasn't out of some pie-in-the-sky desire. This is the way we truly want to do it. So rest assured, it will go through the complete process, but we're just opening ourselves up to problems. As far as I'm concerned, I guess you could put a sign on the west side of the parking structure, say, "Welcome to Glendale." Because if it comes out with this coloration, whatever, you'll know when you're coming to Glendale. No doubt about it. There'll be a different entrance. But I'm not going to comment much other than to say that I did meet with staff, different departments already. I voiced all my concerns, the ones that I could distinguish at this time. So I'm not going to make them again here. I want to know where staff was coming from on some and point other things that I have background information, understand, mainly in terms of the storm drain and the sewerage issues. And staff's aware of them, know what have to be done. So I think we're really, I think our planning division has given, Alan Loomis has given a lot of input. Looking at all the comments, we had traffic, we had engineering, planning comments. We had a lot of different departments already giving plenty of work to the architect to go back and handle, including the few that I made. So they go ahead and refine it. It is different, but it is not exactly sitting in a residential neighborhood. So we don't have to be too concerned about that. And we have projects to the east of that are coming in on Los Feliz, the triangular project, and then the Memorial Hospital. So it'll be a good location, good fit. I'm not concerned about the boxy effect. Eventually, I think there will be enough other outward appearances of it that will, in the refinements, that will make it a very beautiful building to be there. So I'd like to have the architect get on with all the comments we've made. That'll be the end of it for me.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Weaver. So moving right on along the dais, Mr. Quintero.
Okay, well, let me start by saying I'm very, very happy that the property owner is continuing to move forward. Just have to take a look at the photos of the current site to see it's in horrible condition. Absolutely no hope of a rehab. Those buildings are basically vacant shells. So the fact that he's continuing to move forward, I think, is a positive. Put into context of this entire neighborhood, in a sense, this could be a catalyst for the surrounding blocks. I mean, it's basically a blighted area. There's a few pockets. There's restaurants on a street corner that are positive and busy, and it may be next to an empty storefront or something that's being used for storage, et cetera, et cetera. So this could be the beginning of a transformation of this neighborhood, and that's what we've been talking about. We've been talking about it for years and years. The redevelopment along San Fernando Road has been going on for many years, but really it's all been focused at the north end. This could be the beginning of a big project that will help to uplift the south end, and perhaps some of the other projects that have stalled. Once they see this construction beginning, then I think other property owners may decide to do something themselves. In terms of the building, the architecture, it's quite striking, especially at night. So I think it would be quite a significant element as you drive into Glendale. However, I think it's going to depend on the refinement and what it is that the architect has in mind in terms of some of the materials being used, et cetera. But overall, the layout, I think, works well on that corner. And we absolutely need to mask the parking structure so that it doesn't, quite frankly, look like a parking structure, because it's very, very prominent. So it has to tie in totally to the building itself. So I think we need to spend a lot of time on the structure to make sure that it's integrated into the overall design. I do like the idea of the different uses, from supermarket, which the area needs, There's one market nearby, but this would be good competition for it. I think there'll be, I think it's going to do very well, let's put it that way. I like the idea of the retail, the restaurants, the different food courts, and then the medical offices. Glendale Memorial is very close by. You can literally walk to the hospital from this location, as well as the general office. So I like the idea of the mixed-use concept. I think it's going to work very well there. But once again, going back to the design, I think the staff really has to focus on the materials and how they're going to look with plenty of samples, and to really get a good feel, perhaps even build a model, but to really get a good feel of what this is going to look like. I think in the evening it's going to be striking, but during the day we have to make sure that what we do there is going to be at a sort of elevated level. The traffic flow, we'll have to work on that. I am quite pleased that you have the different entrances and so forth, so I think that's going to work well. I think Mr. Poindexter made a good point about traffic flow as it pertains to cycle activity, because I know that Los Feliz is one of the ways that many people get to the park. And incidentally, this is nothing new, because no matter what's going on in this project, then you've got Costco, then you've got Best Buys, and all of the other retail traffic all the way out to the park. So this is nothing new. Any cyclists on Los Feliz had better look out, because it's a very busy street. But anyway, I'm very happy we're moving forward. We still have a lot of work to do, and I'm for the project 100%.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Quintero. Ms. Friedman.
Hey, thank you. It's a very interesting project. We don't have anything like this in Glendale, so it'll be a unique building, not just because of how it looks, but also how it's programmed on the interior. So I find that very intriguing. I do like the direction that the building's going in terms of the architecture. And I'm sure that as you work with our urban planners, that it'll become even more refined. My biggest concerns are mostly about traffic. I think that you're doing a lot, obviously, to mitigate that and to take care of that. But I think if it's going to have an impact, it's going to be there more than anything else. We don't have single-family. We don't have residential around it, so you're not going to be bothering any of those people. And it is a much more commercial corridor, so that's not an issue. So if there's an issue, it's going to be more traffic issues. So we need to just be sure as we move forward that all of that's handled. And I agree. I'm glad Mr. Poindexter came and talked about the cyclists, because that is an issue on Los Feliz Boulevard. And hopefully we can use this building as an impetus to do some real mitigation and some real upgrading to the bike amenities on Los Feliz, which right now it doesn't have any. But I would hope that as part of this project, we use it as an excuse to look into shared ride lanes, whatever else we can do, upgrading signals, whatever we can do to make Los Feliz safe for cyclists, because right now it really isn't. I also just want to be sure that certainly the two prominent streetscapes on Gardenia and on Los Feliz are as active as possible, so that the building at the ground level looks outward and not the sort of typical fortress that looks inwards, something that's friendly and conducive to pedestrians. And part of that is not only programming all of those two streetscapes particularly, but being sure that the pedestrian ingress and egress is as well taken care of as the traffic, so that it's as easy for people to walk in and out safely as it is for cars to get in and out safely. Sometimes large projects forget about that part, and you have people crossing a lot of driveways, a lot of parking lots, and that kind of thing, and we need to be sure that it's inviting. So if people are walking from Glendale Memorial, as hopefully they will for lunch, that it's very easy and that it's a nice experience to get from those big businesses, into this complex. And In terms of the sustainability as it moves forward, that's going to be very important to me. I'm going to really be looking for you to be sure that this is a sustainable building in terms of any energy savings and water usage, resource usage, and building materials that you can. Part of that is I would like you to look at the new automated parking systems that are starting to be used around the Southland. You have 10 levels of parking proposed, and it might very well not only pencil out for you in terms of building to do something automated, but also because you won't have to have lights, you don't have to have air conditioning, you don't have to have people. It's something that going forward as you manage the building might add a lot of benefit, and it could reduce that mass from being an 8-story mass down to maybe being a 4-story mass. So it could end up penciling out very well for you and being something really unique with an already unique project. So I'm glad to see it. I'm looking forward to seeing it in its next go-round.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Najarian.
Thank you. It's a very colorful building that is going to, I'm sure, be a landmark for Glendale as you approach Glendale and perhaps as you leave Glendale. But there's a potential problem. I don't know if you've known about this or not, and that is high-speed rail, which is coming. It's the big gorilla. We just got an additional $2 billion from the Obama administration. It is their intention to take an additional 50 feet of right-of-way from the railroad tracks going east. They've already warned us we're going to have to move our historic railroad station. I don't know how close. I looked at these figures here, but the architects, please keep that in mind, that there might be some adjustments of up to 50 feet. We're going to have a presentation next week. Next week or the 17th?
I don't think next week. We're having it the month of February, I know.
The 17th, I think. So we don't like it either. We're not sure how much we can do as an agency, as a city, to stop that. But clearly, if they were to come in with a huge land grab and cut into your lot or your property, it may cause you to do some redesigning. So just to give you a heads up on that. Other than that, I like the building. It's a blighted corner as it is. I like what you're doing with the embankment, the wave, the curvilinear motif is very colorful. I hope that the flowers actually maintain those bright, vibrant oranges and yellows that are then carried on in the glazed windows, and it looks good. I'm just concerned about that high-speed rail affecting you. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Quintero.
Yeah, Mr. Najarian is making a good point. It would be a costly endeavor if you build out that structure and then find out that, in fact, you're not going to be able to build it. But it does tie into what Ms. Friedman is talking about, and I received the same presentation. I really suggest that the staff put them in touch with the people that operate the automatic garages, because that may be the solution. Number one, a cheaper financial solution for you, and then that would take care of Mr. Najarian's comment. And then also, I agree with her in the sense that the more sustainable you make this building, the better off you're going to be. And the fact that you're going to be using the photovoltaic panels and so forth, I can't emphasize how important that's going to be. So I hope we pursue that, and the staff make sure that we work those solar panels into the design.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Weaver.
Just general comment. I don't know, Mr. Starbird, why the city has not received studies on alignments by the engineers, Caltrans or Metrolink or MTA, where it's the right-of-way is going to go. Hearing we're going to move our historic train station, I find that hard to accept. They need 50 feet, we'll see. And where's the exact alignment to the west or the east? There's going to be an awful lot of trade-offs. There's going to be a lot of discussion with all the neighboring cities on what you're going to lose. All you have to do is look at the 405 freeway widening and how long that went on, trying to satisfy all the neighbors before it was taken. That took years. And I expect when they get a preferred alignment on this high-speed rail, there's going to be a lot of input to the CEQA documents on that, and to the NEPA documents, and a number of alignments made before we select one. So I'll be wanting this building will be at least 10, 20 years old before you see any alignment. Because I was talking about high-speed rail in 1970. Still haven't got it. That's just my opinion.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank my colleagues for their comments. I don't have a great deal to add that you haven't already heard. It's one of the drawbacks of chairing a meeting. You get to speak last. So I think all the adjectives have been spun out, and I think they're all accurate. The concerns also that I have as we go forward have also been articulated, so I have very little to add. It is a beautiful design. It is an area of the city that I think will. Well, I think this design is well suited for this part of the city. I think that we might be having a different discussion if this were plopped down on Brand Boulevard in mid-Brand or something. But this location, I think, is quite well suited. It is a beautiful design, and we will look forward to seeing the project as it moves forward. Are there any other comments or from staff? Anything? Yes, I did. All right then.
Okay, I move we,
6A1?
yeah, I move 6A1.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Kasakian, could you call the roll?
Agency members Friedman.
Yes.
Najarian.
Yes.
Quintero.
Yes.
Weaver.
Aye.
Chairman Draymond.
Yes. Thank you very much. The next item?
Any agency member or staff comments?
I don't see anyone with their hand up, so I don't think we have any new business, so we have a motion to adjourn
Second.
and a second. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Bye-bye.